Welcome to um, the historical Minnesota statehood historical day here in Minnesota. Um, we are in is it Maplewood?
Yes.
Yeah, we're in Maplewood, Minnesota, on a farm that was built back in the 1800s, the late 1800s, and actually it was these buildings were moved here from a different location here in Maplewood. But as you can see, this is part of the farm here, and I'm gonna actually take you and show you, you know, and they're having reenactments. So so guys, enjoy. All right, all right. Yeah, I like the trees. Yeah.
I just went there now.
Yes. They're going to do reenactments of back in the days in the 1800s here in Minnesota. Um, so and so I'll just show you guys that. Hope you guys enjoy. Shout out to Addie Mam Flores. Thank you so much for your dedication and your consistent support. It's greatly appreciated. Shout out to everyone in the Reed family. Um, YG. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right, guys. We're inside a barn that was built in the 1800s, and as you can see, um, this is made of all wood, and we'll kind of get a better look. You can see up here where how it's built, all wood, and it took a long time to construct this, and so yeah. Oh, and up ahead is a house. All these buildings were uh, brought from a different location and put here on this land as a museum. So shout out to everyone here in the chat. Thank you for being here. I'm going to show you guys. Okay, just listen.
We're going to be doing a short play in here in about
Oh, okay.
10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. One second. Hello, everyone. Hello, Amami Rainbow. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Good to see you. They're going to have a play here, and so I'm just wanted to show you guys this farm. It was built back in the late 1800s. These buildings were, and everything was moved to this land because the original farm was moved because they were constructing a mall in the area. So they had to move everything to this new location. And so, and these are like 12 buildings that are very historical and to Minnesota. And so, as you can see, okay, let's listen.
What's going on?
And I have a question. Who wants to be a star? Who wants to be the star of the show?
No.
Great takers. We'll wait for that one. Who here has seen live professional theater? Well, thank you for supporting the arts, but this isn't that. This is live, and it's more or less theater, but it certainly isn't professional.
But it is the truth.
It is the truth. Because it is the history of Minnesota in 5 acts. Who knows what an act is? Everybody know what an act is?
Chapter.
An act is a scene between the curtains where people do stuff. With prologue, who knows what a prologue is?
What happens
At the beginning. And who knows what an interlude is, because this also has an interlude. Close. An interlude is not quite an intermission. An interlude is something that happens on the stage that has nothing to do with anything else. This has an interlude. Now, who wants to be a star?
It's easy, we promise.
Draft one of our own.
You get the signs for seeds.
Oh. We need 2 more brave souls to step forward. Have a day. Thank you.
So you all realize I'm the most important person. And nothing happens unless I put this, I put this sign up and everybody applauds.
There is.
Very good.
Ooh. Cheer for the Cardinals!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the history of Minnesota in 5 acts with prologue and interlude. We are the Living History Society of Minnesota. We're happy to present this to you. As you might know, people like to pass time in the evenings and on the weekends and when they have spare time, and people in the mid-19th century were no different. This is the kind of thing we would do to pass time on winter evenings and times when we didn't have anything to entertain ourselves because there's no TV, no internet, and nothing recorded. Amateur theatricals could be performed in public for things like charity events, or they could be performed at home and be homemade. An example of this is in Little Women, when the girls are always creating theatricals and plays to present to their friends. Like any play that you might see at home, it is of varying quality, but always hilarious. So please feel free to laugh and to cheer and to applaud, especially for our brave sign holder who will be indicating where we are in the program. The Living History Society of Minnesota presents to you today a theatrical created from the perspective of settler colonists of Minnesota in 1858. The script was developed by our core members in 1998 and is inspired by primary source accounts from Harriet Bishop and others. It embodies the voices of European American immigrants to Minnesota at that time and reflects their perspective. There are many other perspectives from this time that would complement the narrative presented here, including Dakota and Ojibwe people who stewarded this land long before any foreign settlers arrived. It is not appropriate for us to embody or play out these perspectives, and we humbly acknowledge the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, settlement, resistance, and hope that have brought us here today in 2024. Let us begin with the prologue. The prologue. Here upon this lake of ours, let us now beguile the hours, and the stories we will tell of this state we know so well. Forest grandeur, lakes serene, water pure and clean, stretching wheel, fields of waving grain, here is balm to ease one's pain. In this land by God so blessed, we shall stay as nature's guest. Listen now, relate will we, Minnesota's history. Since we finished the prologue, what comes next? Scene 1. Father Hennepin beholds the fall. History was a very popular topic for theatricals, both local history and international history. Scene 1, Father Hennepin beholds the falls. One of the first esteemed explorers to our region was Father Louis Hennepin. In the spring of 1680, Father Hennepin resolved upon the hazardous undertaking of ascending the mighty Mississippi. He found his way to by way of some interesting adventures we will not relate here. Tedious and very dangerous voyage arrived at the mouth of the Minnesota River. He stood on Pilot Knob to drink in the Eden-like beauty of all the eye could scan. In October of that year, the father set out to explore parts of the Mississippi. It was during this trip that he first laid eyes on the great cataract called Oamini by the Dakota and called by him the Falls of St. Anthony. Father Hennepin met several bands of Dakota during his brief sojourn and was surprised by the arrival of a party of French fur traders. In the month of September following, they all bade adieu to the lovely land, leaving it for others to profit from their discoveries and become the rich partakers of its golden fruits. End scene. So we've done the prologue and we have done Act 1. What becomes next? Anyone? Act 2. Minnesota becomes a state. We have another hand for our brave sign holder.
Examples.
Don't become fatigued. You have several more acts to go. Scene 2. Minnesota becomes a state. After Father Hennepin, a great many explorers and adventure seekers passed through this land. So many, in fact, that it would be of intense boredom to list them all here. We shall, however, give you an overview. France first claimed rights over the land of Minnesota way back before the Good Father. But during the French and Indian War, she decided to take desperate measures to keep these lands away from England. In a secret treaty, France handed all of the land west of the Mississippi over to the Spanish. When England won, they were slightly frustrated to learn that they had only acquired the Canadas. A few years later, France received the lands back and all was good. Then Napoleon entered the scene. After he was done ransacking the continent, he found himself a bit broke. The new country of the United States of America stepped in and bought the land for a mere pittance. The Northwest Territory was born. Now, Jefferson knew he needed to make the American presence known in the newly acquired land, so he sent those intrepid explorers, Lewis and Clark, as well as Zebulon Pike, to explore the wilds. These explorers would also aid in letting any French or English hangers-on know who was now in charge. This was America, and it would stay that way. Now, that was just a trifle confusing, so let's review. There will be a test. First, France controlled Minnesota, then she gave it to Spain, who then gave it back so that Napoleon could sell the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel to Jefferson in 1803. Got everything? Good. End scene. We have arrived at the interlude. As our master of ceremonies told you, the interlude has nothing to do with the topic of the play and could be taken from literature or fairy tales or folk tales or even music. Today, our interlude is known as the Sleeping Interlude.
Oh.
A scene of the Sleeping Beauty taken from Alfred, Lord Tennyson's The Daydream. Year after year, unto her feet, she lying on her couch alone, across the purple coverlet, the maiden's jet black hair has grown. A silk star broidered coverlet, unto her limbs itself doth mold. Her constant beauty doth inform stillness with love and day with light. She sleeps, her breathings are not heard, in palace chambers far apart. The tresses are not stirred that lie upon her charmed heart. She sleeps, on either hand upswells the gold fringed pillow lightly pressed. She sleeps nor dreams, but ever dwells, a perfect form in perfect rest. The Sleeping Interlude, ladies and gentlemen. We return now to our subject at hand, which is the history of Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case you forgot after that lovely interlude. Going to talk about the beginnings of Fort Snelling on the bluffs above the Mississippi and Minnesota River. From Father Hennepin passed much time and many things, none of which we will relate here. The noble river remained unrippled, save by the paddles of canoes upon it, until the defense of the frontier was found expedient. The present site of Fort Snelling was selected in 1817. It was named after its first commandant, and Lake Harriet, a beautiful transparent sheet of water, after his heroic and inestimable wife. In 1820, upon appointment to the command, Colonel Snelling prosecuted the work of building with great energy, filling his station with dignity and winning golden opinions from subordinate officers and privates. Mrs. Snelling, true to the noble instinct of woman, refused to allow her husband to brave the dangers and privations of the wilderness alone. Upon its completion, Fort Snelling became the grandest of all frontier forts. With its rock quarried from the surrounding bluffs of sandstone and timber cut from along the Rum River, it was an awe-inspiring sight indeed. Have you kept track of where we are? Do you know what scene we're at? Scene. You had scene 1, scene 2, interlude, scene 3,
Oh.
and now scene 4. The panorama of the seasons. One of our favorite pastimes of Minnesotans, both in the past and today, is talking about the weather. And so we will begin scene 4, the panorama of the seasons, part 1, winter. Let us ruminate for a time on that which makes our state stand apart from the others, that gives her special character we all know and love so well. The climate of Minnesota is one of its greatest attractions. It is unsurpassed. Elevated on the continent above all miasmatic and malarial diseases, it is subject to bilious diseases so common in the lower and more southern portions of the West. The atmosphere is bracing, exhilarating, invigorating, and pure. The severity of our winter has doubtless disturbed lovely back beds, but it teaches all they have nothing to fear from the storm. It is true, the cold here is more intense in states at the same latitude, but that the winters of Minnesota are winter and the human system less affected by the cold heat. And now that we have talked about winter, it is time to talk about our other season, summer. And what do we know summer in Minnesota so well to contain? But many, many, many mosquitoes. Can we present to you Ode to a Mosquito? Fair insect with thread-like wings, legs spread out, and blood-extracting bill and filmy wing, just murmur as thou slowly sailst about, in pitiless ears full of many a plaintive thing, and tell how little our large veins should bleed, would we but yield them to thy bitter need. Cry, aldermen, and suck the blood, enriched by generous wine and costly meats. Whalefin spilt skins, sleek as thy native mud, fix thy plump and press thy freckled cheeks. Full angrily, men hearken to thy plainting. Thou gets many a brush and many a curse for saying thou art gaunt and starved and faint. The corks are drawn and the red vintage flows, swelling in veins for thee, and now the ruddy cheek and now the ruddier nose shall tempt thee as thou flittest round the brow, and when the hour of sleep its quiet brings, no angry hand shall rise to brush thy wings. And now we come at last to scene 5. The finale. Minnesota and El Dorado. For centuries, the mighty Northwest smiled in unpraised beauty, disturbed only by the quiet feet of man, humbled by the surface of its glittering crystal lakes, glittering in the sun's rays and radiant with reflected moral beauty. The dancing streamlets sweetly harmonized with a gentle breeze and the woodbird melody. But the march of America is westward. Mighty trees who bore witness to centuries of man's trials and travails felled to satiate the appetite of the growing republic. The nation of immigrants has grown each year, spreading beyond the Great Lakes. The iron horse, more mighty than Pegasus, paws the ground, eager to make the widely separated Atlantic and Mississippi meet. Indeed, what could stop it? As we gaze upon the banks of the Earth's noblest stream, surrounded by flowery plains, the rich, undulating prairies, and natural parks of Minnesota, the El Dorado of the world, we wonder what we will make of all these raw gifts of nature. In a first gush of enthusiasm, we exclaim, Eureka! Eureka! Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to present the story of Minnesota's history, presented in voices inspired by the settled colonists who founded our state. We again invite you to complete this narrative with accounts from Dakota, Ojibwe, and others that we did not portray today. We thank the Maplewood Historical Society for their work in continuing to unearth the history of our community and restore perspectives that have been erased. We've been the Living History Society of Minnesota, and we've been glad to share the past with you today. Thank you to our seniors.
Thank you. Okay.
That's fun. I'm better move. I think there's a ball. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Hilarious. Just like a huge
Ah, pretty neat. So, guys, that was a play that they talked about the history of Minnesota. Just wanted to show you guys the barn here. This is a ladder that, like way back when they had stored hay. And you think you can see it right up there, and where they took the bales of hay and fed the animals. And so, yeah, and this is what that was for. It was actually on the other side. So here, is that right? Can you explain to the people in YT what that was used for?
Oh,
For
to
the
store the hay, and when
yeah.
the animals
Okay.
came down, then the farmer would push the hay down for the animals that were living below, and they would eat.
Oh, okay. So is that like with this ladder? No,
Usually there was a roof, so, I mean, there was another floor on this side, like I would go across a lot of times.
oh, okay. Okay, got it. Okay.
That's how our barn was.
All right. So there you got it, guys. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna. All right, guys. I'm gonna go outside, and they're gonna look at on the outside, go around the buildings. Show you. Auntie Emmy and Mother, I hope you guys get a chance to watch this. I've been thinking about, you guys and everyone in YT here and everyone in the provinces. This is a water pump and there's a well right below, and they pump the water to, use this to pump to get their water for feeding animals and for the house, and daily things, that were used on the farm. And this is an actual house, an old house back in the day.
Was a great, successful. Now this is the first house in the 40s. This house is still encapsulated inside this one. The Germans did not tear down this house, but they did a business around it. So we're gonna go explore that now. So if you guys want to follow me, we're gonna go into the front door.
I give you guys a raw, uncut version of this tour. We're just kind of going from place to place. So enjoy.
Kept the ramp and I'll keep the dog outside.
Going to an old house.
So we have some other photos of the farm. We're lucky here at the Maplewood Area Historical Society. We're a small nonprofit. Don't receive anything from the city or the county or the state, other than an occasional grant that we have to apply for. So we are completely dependent on the donations from folks like you. So please consider helping us preserve these 12 beautiful buildings and the programming that we do. But we also have 150,000 pieces in our collection, which is a lot for a historical society our size. Most of them are photographs. So we have about 125,000 photographs in our collection. Luckily, we have some from the Bruin troops who documented their farm. So here's the house. This would be looking from, if we had resituated this, about where you parked today. This is about the parking lot looking back this way. This is sometime before 1905 because the new barn has not been built yet. So the big barn that you were all just in was built in 1905. And they still had their small house here. Here again, this would be looking up from the drive. So this would be if you were walking this way towards the house originally. And this pond here, this is where Michael's and Half Price Books is today. There's a big pond outside. That's the pond there. And we've got the house here. 1905, they built the big barn. We've situated the buildings as close as we could to the original layout, over a mile away. And then by 1912, the family had done well enough that they hired an architectural student from the University of Minnesota. Again, frugal Germans didn't hire an architect; they could get a cheaper student. So the student designed this beautiful arts and crafts house, which we'll go into, which we're in the process of remodeling and taking back to 1912, which you'll see in the first room we go in. But for that almost a full year that the family was renovating the house here, they lived in that granary. So 5 of them lived in that granary. It was this first closest building to us right here. With no window, or just so,
Yeah.
5 of them in that granary, and also probably still had grain in that building. So there was William and Ida, and they had 3 children, 2 daughters, Lydia and Mabel, and then Herb. Herb eventually inherits the farm. He marries his wife Rose. They have 2 children, Joan and Bill. Bill continues to run the farm and own the farm until 1999 when he donates the farm. He and his wife Raydell donate the farm to the Maplewood Area Historical Society. We raised $500,000 to move the buildings here and spend the next 20 years restoring the buildings, and that's where we are today. So we're talking here. We're going to go inside the house. I should say that Bill and Raydell may pop by today. They are still around, active, and hardy volunteers with us. We're going to come into what we call the living room here. So we're going to this first room. We'll stay outside. Go ahead, Mom. Yeah, you go ahead.
Well, I probably just got a farm.
Well,
If you want to hold the dog, you can bring the dog in.
Okay.
He's good. So welcome to the living room. This is the room that the family lived in. It was the main room of the family's daily life. And originally this was the kitchen component of that first house that we saw, that smaller house. So let me find the picture here for you. So this window right here is where this bay window is right now. So this was the kitchen here. The parlor was here. The family hardly ever used the parlor. It's very traditional in the 19th century to not use a parlor, other than for very special events. And we recently just renovated this room here. So if you were here in October, this room did not look like this at all. There was, we like to call it the family did not smoke, but we like to call it the smoker yellow room because at some point in time, everything had been painted a really dull yellow color in here. There was beige carpet and everything. So in November, we took up the carpet. We got some period furniture from 1912. And then we did some studies on how we wanted to treat the walls and do window treatments in here. So we have some 1912 window treatments that we have created for us. And ideally, originally, everything would have been wallpapered. However, if we were going to wallpaper, this room would have been about $20,000 just to wallpaper. Fortunately, we are a small nonprofit and don't have that kind of money. So we thought about other ways to bring that 1912 feel that was still going to be authentic back into this space to show how the family lived in 1912. The house was originally electrified in 1912. So electricity had come out this far from St. Paul by 1912. They were not going to electrify the house originally in the original plans, but within a couple of months, the electricity had come out that far. So we were able to acquire this 1915 light here, which looks very different to modern eyes. It's not the type of thing any of us would put in our home today, but it is very appropriate for the time period. A lot of people come into this space and they say, oh, it's so dark in here, it's so dark in here. And people live in much darker rooms than we do today. We have all this light that we have 110 years ago, you know. But we were able to also, at the time, arts and crafts was very big. And that's not, you know, playing with construction paper. That's an art style, a decorative style. And this house is built in an arts and crafts style. So we really looked at that. Stenciling came back into vogue at that time. And so we took the motif, the Tudor rose from here, and that is an exact reproduction of there. So we were able to bring some of that back. Houses in the 19th century were all wallpapered. Everything would have been wallpapered because plaster, particularly in Minnesota, is not very stable when you have temperatures fluctuating broadly. And so even ceilings were wallpapered. So we wallpapered the ceiling here with a grass cloth as well. And so it really does start to feel very 1912. You can see a family of 5, you know, eating dinner in here, lounging and reading magazines, doing some sewing work, playing board games, doing homework in here at the desk and that sort of thing. So that was, this was the main living space for that family. A huge kitchen wing was put on, which has not been restored. We'll exit through there so you'll still get to see that. But let's come on into the parlor here. Ryan.
You're in the back.
It was just this last year that they
So the parlor here also, about a year ago, looked very much like Grandma's living room in here. So we took the carpet up. Again, we didn't have the money to restore this room to a 1912 appearance, but we wanted to be sympathetic to that era. So We chose this color. This is called Gobelin blue. In 1912, it was a very popular color, blue from the Gobelin textile factories in France. Now, in the 19th century, blue colors were called fugitive colors. They didn't stay very well. So you don't see a lot of blue in the 19th century because they would fade and change colors and morph. But the Gobelin factory had developed this blue color, which looks very gray to us today, but it became very popular. It changes with the light as well. So it becomes bluer and grayer and silver. It looks almost shimmery silver at some point in time. So yeah, if you look down here, it looks almost blue, like baby blue down here. So that was a popular color in 1912. So we decided to play with that in here. And then also we have these curtains were designed for us. They're reproductions of a 1912 curtain. These were done in Scotland for us. And part of the arts and crafts movement was bringing outdoors in. And so we've got oak trees, which play homage to the beautiful oak trees outside as well. And so we go from kind of a Victorian look of these very heavy drapes in the living room to very high arts and crafts. It's much lighter. It's much more in tune with how our eyes look at things today. So that was very interesting. As I was telling some of you, we have 150,000 pieces in our collection. 125,000 of them are photographs. And so this is also a space for us. We do meetings in here, we do lectures in here, but also allows us to pull out some of the really beautiful photographs we have in our collection. Right now we still have our Frozen in Time exhibit up from this winter. If you come back to our first farmers market of the year, which is on it's Sunday, the first Sunday in June 4th? First?
Yeah.
June 1st?
31st, May 31st is Friday, so.
Then the first, if you come back to our farmers market, we'll have a new exhibit up in here so you can check that out. But we are so lucky to have so many beautiful photographs that really document the history of Maplewood. That is our curator, Brittany, who's back here taking photographs of us. She does our collections work here and pulls together. You know, we can only have about 16 photographs of our 125,000 at any time in this room, but we just recently received a grant to digitize most of our photographs and get those online. So we're really excited about that.
It's a certain temperature here.
Yes, so the house, you'll notice, is climate controlled, which it would not have been in 1912. However, there was central heating in 1912. So they did put in central heating. They had a furnace in the basement. And one of the things in 1912, or in the late 19th or early 20th century, you did when you had central heating was you got houseplants. So houseplants are really popular today again. But in 1900, 1912, they were super popular because it showed without telling that you had central heating. Houseplants in Minnesota alive without central heating. And so palms became very big, you know, these exotic plants. We had railroads that could transport exotic plants and that sort of thing. So houseplants became very popular at that time, and now they're making a resurgence and coming back as well. Not going to take you into this room, but I want to point out a couple things you can walk through. The original Bruin Troop wedding certificate is hanging above the desk in there. And then if you look next to it on the wall here, you'll see a photograph of the house with the family originally before it was remodeled. And if you look above, you'll see a crack in the wall where you can see the layers of plaster and paint on there. So you can see some of that. Also around the corner to your left, you'll see the original deed from John Wagner to William Bruintroop on the wall. And one of my favorite things in our collection, it says, for $1 and the love and affection of our son-in-law, they gave the 40 acres. So I don't know how you keep that legal, but you know that's what it was. So, and then also William Bruintroop's citizenship papers on that wall. So feel free to mosey throughout the house for a little bit if you'd like. We can exit through the modern kitchen, and then we are going to go plant flax in a little bit. So if you want to come learn about flax in the 19th century, you can come plant flax with us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you hear what he said about the paint? So the blue is a hard color, it still is, it's a hard color in this work. And so the even though it- this heat that actually held up.
Yeah, but here's a number.
Thank you for coming.
Roy will be what you're hoping it is.
But until they came out with the blue just didn't work, because just like blue siding, not color siding. Well, it's the color it is, it just isn't consistent.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I keep hoping we can find some video of it. Apparently there's videos of it, but we haven't found it. And so this is, when they were first, raising money to save the farm. That's Betty McCollum right there.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's Bill and Rachel. Yeah, so originally the kitchen, it was a kitchen and a block and pantry. So it was originally 2 rooms. In the 1990s, they gutted it and remodeled it, which is why it looks very 1990s.
Yeah.
But it looks very 1990s. So, but it's yeah. Yeah. It makes a nice break space for staff.
Is that the future home?
Yeah. So originally, so what we hope is we're able to completely restore the first floor. That was the old 1912. It's like a 3-story
Hey Connie,
Yeah.
it's Paul. Hey Connie, you two and I are going out.
Here, Mom, it's the new state flag.
Yeah.
I think it's this, the new state flag this week, I think, is when it becomes official. Actually, I think it's tomorrow.
Oh, really?
It actually might be today. It might be today. I think May 11th it becomes official. So that's the official. So
You guys are doing reenactments, and so we'll just kind of walk around. Shout out to everyone here in YT, and thank you for coming out and being supportive of the channel. Who's Jill? The better half. She grew up on a farm, and she was able to talk about the farm right here in front of us, about what they did, as far as feeding the animals. They took hay and dropped it, it's on the other side where the animals were to feed them. So she grew up on a farm, so she was able to kind of give perspective of. Okay. 19th century toys and games.
I can't remember. There's like strategy of you have to do one and then two, but I think you have to have a certain have to grab a certain number and then check the ball out. So
Snake.
so
and Nine Morris. I've never heard of this. If anyone here's in the chat heard of these games,
This is pretty fun. It's a catapult.
leave a message. I appreciate that. If you play these games, let me know. I would like to know. I was very curious.
Okay.
How many weekends? How are you doing? Bessie Blue. Hattie Breeches and Happy Mary Rose. Bo. Hattie Sonia. All right. Now tell me what does this any of this look familiar?
No, we didn't have a gazebo. That's just a nice place to sit outside. We
Okay.
didn't have one.
Okay. So this is just an area, kind of like a storage area place where they built. This is back in the 1800s. I mean 1800s, yeah. And this is the house that we were into. Um, this is a what is this called? A windmill?
Yeah.
Okay, a windmill. There's a tree, there's the barn. So let's go walk over here, guys. So this was before the internet and didn't have all the distractions, so they played games, told stories. Shout out to everyone here. Thank you for being here. And those who are into history, who enjoy history, I wanted to bring this um, to everyone here in YT. I hope you enjoy this um, video, this live stream. Auntie Amy, I was just wondering, I was curious. When you were growing up, did you play, what was your form of entertainment? Like, at home or, like, or when you were growing up? Well, I was just kind of curious. And did you have any, like, did they have farms that, um, where they grew things? Um, and I remember you told me a story a while back when I first started about you had something, you grew something. I don't know what that was, but just was kind of just curious of what life was like. Guys, So these are all original structures that were built in the 1900s, late 1800s, 1900s, and they were moved here. You know, this is the history of Minnesota, and talking about the Minnesota statehood. Um, I hope you guys are enjoying this live stream. Hmm?
Are they doing the same thing?
I probably maybe the same thing. As you can see, people were dressed back in the day of period attire. I'm gonna go back over here, guys, um, to kind of. If anyone here in the chat can tell me if they played any of these games, I would be very happy to know. So, um, just wanted to know what it was like for everyone here in YT about what games you played growing up. Jacks, spinning tops, dolls, pull toys.
Any questions about any of this?
Yes, I was curious. Can you tell me tell me about the how did these were originated back in the during the 1800s, correct?
Yeah, or some of them are even older than that.
Oh, really? Okay.
1700s, yeah.
Okay. What was the most popular game, would you say? Among on the table.
Most popular?
Mhm.
Oh man, that's hard to say.
Oh, really?
I'd
Okay.
say Nine Men's Morris, pretty common. That's an older one.
Okay.
It's been around for quite some time.
All right.
Races, pretty popular.
Okay.
The hoop and stick. Kind of put the tablecloth going over here.
Okay.
Pretty popular. And then I'd say maybe Jacob's Ladder and the couple balls.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's very popular.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Now, and these are all made. And can you? How was it? So when someone who had like were on the farm, they would just make these and then
Yeah, a lot of them are made out of wood.
Okay.
Yep, or like dolls and things would have been made out of like scraps of fabric or leftover fabric from making maybe like a new shirt or a cross.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow. Yeah, it's and tell me about the tops. Same thing.
Same thing.
Okay.
Same modern one.
Okay. All right.
Just put it in here.
Nice.
Jack's is a little more complicated because the modern ones have that rubber ball.
Mhm.
These are some wooden balls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
you can't really bounce it.
Okay. All
So
right.
you usually have to toss it up. And then
Okay.
try and grab the jack.
Oh, okay. How did they make the actual jacks? Were they metal or were
Yes,
they
these would be
okay?
metal.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Were they made at a different location or were they made on the farm? I mean, wherever they
These have
lived.
really not been
Oh, really?
so
Okay.
probably wouldn't bother.
Okay. All right. Okay. Wow. Well, tell me about the kaleidoscope. How did that? Was
Yep,
that?
so yeah, you just look through it,
Uh,
just turn it, and it makes just designs.
oh,
to look
okay.
at.
Okay. All right. So it gave that, back then a three-dimensional look.
No, it's
Oh,
not
didn't?
really three-dimensional.
Oh, really?
Here, yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, look through it.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
kind of what you see will change depending on what you point it at.
Ah, okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Wow. All right. So back then it was kind of like a binocular. Would you say similar? So,
Really,
oh no. Okay.
binoculars are, you know, we'll just like bring the image closer.
Oh, okay. All right.
These just kind of fracture it
Fractured. Okay.
just to make it look more interesting.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. All right. And then the flapjacks. How,
Yeah.
what's that?
So you squeeze the bottom here,
Uh huh. Oh, okay. Nice.
does a flip.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Well, tell me about the marbles. How were they made as well? Okay.
So these ones are a little more like modern day style
Uh
marbles.
huh.
The ones in here are what you would have seen more often back then. So clay marbles.
Oh, okay.
So that's more what they would have looked like.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What were the clay? I mean, what kind of clay? What did they use?
That I don't.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. So, okay. And tell me about the chalk. How was that? You know, that was common.
Yeah, chalk like
Okay.
this. The other thing you would have seen was soapstone.
Tell me about soapstone.
So
What's the
soapstone is
difference?
another thing you can use to write on slate.
Okay.
But it's not really quite as dusty as
Oh,
chalk. So I
okay.
like it a little bit better. It's a little bit cleaner, but
Okay.
it doesn't write quite as clearly. Usually
Oh,
fills up a little bit lighter on the slate.
okay.
So it does, it's got its pros, but it's got its cons as well. Like this, you can see, you know, really clearly on
Uh-huh. Right.
soapstone. You got to kind of push it a little bit. To get
Oh, okay. All right. Wow. And you said this, the slate you said
Mhm.
was what's it made out of?
Slate is like a kind of stone. Like,
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah.
Okay.
But you could also get, sometimes you'd see just like boards that were painted, like even on the classroom wall, it was just like black paint
Mhm.
that they'd put on there and then you'd write on that.
Oh, okay.
Not super effective necessarily, but
Gotcha.
you know, sometimes you just needed to do something.
Gotcha. Okay. Nice. Well, thank you so much for explaining.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so tell me about the I was curious about like where the you know, like okay, this was a what was this? A granary, I heard?
Um, yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I think if you have specific questions about the buildings, we want to find someone who works out here.
Okay.
So people in costume here, we're all just kind of volunteers out for the day. Kind of
Okay.
bring our presentations around to different locations.
Oh, nice.
So we're not necessarily experts on like this spot.
Okay.
But yeah, if you've got, or it's probably I think the lady at the table is one of the site volunteers. She'd probably be able to answer more of your specific site questions.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time. Okay.
Coming out today.
All right. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for listening to that explanation of the toys. All right. All right, guys. This is gonna sign off. Well, Jill, thank you so much for explaining. All right, and then guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day or great evening. It was good to you know, take you on this this historic adventure with history about Minnesota. All right, guys, you take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.